Benji Tambis of Cebu is likewise present, Mr. President.
To the aforementioned guests, welcome to your Senate.
Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 51st session Monday, June 2, and consider the same as approved, Mr. President, subject to the minor clerical amendment made by this representation pursuant to Section 104 of the Rules of the Senate. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we defer approval of the journal of the 53rd session Wednesday, June 4, 2025.
Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is approved.
Mr. President, several bills are for approval for third reading, Mr. President. We start with the Senate Bill number 2821, the Accelerated and Reformed Right-of-Way Bill, Mr. President. I move that we consider the same on third reading. The printed copies of all of which were electronically distributed to the members last June 6, 2025, in compliance with the 3-day rule of the Constitution. I move that we consider on third reading Senate Bill 2821, the Accelerated and Reformed Right-of-Way Act. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is approved. Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act instituting reforms in the acquisition of right-of-way for infrastructure projects by the national government and by public service providers, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 10752, otherwise known as the Right-of-Way Act. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 23 senators voting in the affirmative, 0 negative, 0 abstention, Senate Bill number 2821 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2868, the bill on the Anti-Pogo Act of 2025. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act banning and declaring illegal offshore gaming operations in the Philippines and other operations related thereto, repealing for the purpose RA 11,590. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 23 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, Senate Bill number 2868 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2982, the bill on the Judiciary Fiscal Autonomy Act. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act defining the scope and extent of fiscal autonomy of the judicial branch of the government and for other purposes. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 23 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, Senate Bill number 2982 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2899, the bill on the Philippine National Nuclear Energy Safety Act. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act providing for a comprehensive legal framework for nuclear safety, security, and safeguards in the peaceful utilization of nuclear energy in the Philippines and establishing the Philippine Atomic Energy Regulatory Authority and appropriating funds therefore. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino,
Yes.
Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 23 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, Senate Bill number 2899 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, before we proceed with the other bills, and before we proceed with the designation of the members of the conference committee panel, Mr. President, this representation as the principal author of this measure would like to thank all the members of this chamber as well as Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. I will just submit into the records my speech of appreciation, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we proceed to the Senate President's designation of the Senate Conference of the Conference Committee Report on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill 2899 and House Bill 9293. These are the bills on the Philippine Nuclear Energy Safety Act. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Following members are designated to comprise the Senate panel with respect to the disagreeing provisions of the Bicameral Conference Committee of Senate Bill number 2899 and House Bill number 9293 as follows. Senator Alan Peter Cayetano as chairperson, this representation as member, and Senator Aquilino Pimentel III on the part of the minority. So designated. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2903, the bill on the revised Philippine Coast Guard law. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Secretary is directed to comply and proceed to roll call vote.
An act providing for the administrative reform and reorganization of the Philippine Coast Guard, repealing RA 9993. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstentions, Senate Bill number 2903 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading the bill on the Senate Bill number 2969, the bill on the National Aviation Academy Act of the Philippines Charter Act. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act declaring the Philippine State College of Aeronautics as a national professional institution for aviation, renaming it the National Aviation Academy of the Philippines. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstentions, Senate Bill number 2969 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading Senate Bill 2999, the bill on the declaration of the State of Imminent Disaster Act. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act establishing a mechanism on the declaration of state of imminent disaster, providing the criteria for its declaration and lifting, enabling anticipatory measures and appropriating funds therefore. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstentions, Senate Bill number 2999 is approved on third reading. Majority Floor Leader.
Senate President Pro Tempore is seeking the floor, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
What is the pleasure of the Honorable Senate President Pro Tem, Jingo Estrada?
this representation being the main author of this particular bill, which has been passed only on third reading, would like to insert into the records his appreciation of the speech of appreciation, and the majority floor leader has intimated to me that he wanted to be a co-author of this particular bill, Mr. President. That's all,
Duly
Mr. President.
noted and entered into the records. Majority Floor
Mr.
Leader.
President, the Deputy Minority Leader is seeking the floor. There might have been a misappreciation of her vote.
What is the pleasure of the Honorable Deputy Minority Floor Leader, the Honorable Riveros?
Salamat, Mr. President, at salamat sa Majority Leader. I just wish to clarify that my vote on the Phil-Atom bill was recorded as a no, because it was recorded as a no, Mr. President.
How was it recorded?
It was not so recorded, and we shall do the corresponding correction, Your Honor, based on your manifestation now.
Thank you, Mr. President. And further, I would just like to enter into the record my explanation of no vote on the Philatom bill, as well, while I'm here at the rostrum, Mr. President, to request also that my explanation of yes vote to the anti-POGO bill also merely be entered into the record. Salamat tabi, Mr. President, and again to the Majority Leader.
Given the manifestation of the Honorable Antiveros, let the record be corrected and to read that insofar as the Philatom bill is concerned, 22 affirmative votes and 1 negative vote, subject to the insertion into the records of the explanation of vote of the Honorable Ontiveros. So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2613. This is the bill on the equitable access to Sharia courts. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act providing for equitable access to Sharia courts, amending RA 9997. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstentions, Senate Bill number 2613 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third readings Senate Bill number 3000. This is the bill on the career progression system for public school teachers and school leaders. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act institutionalizing the career progression system for public school teachers and school leaders and appropriating funds therefore. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Senator Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstentions, Senate Bill number 3000 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 10535. This is the bill on the amendments to the National Internal Revenue Code in relation to denatured alcohol. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Senate Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act amending sections 134 and 168 of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino,
Yes.
Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 10535 is approved on third reading. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 7500. This is the bill on the establishment of aquaculture feed mill plant in Panay, Capiz. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Senate Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act establishing an aquaculture feed mill plant in Bahit, Apanay, Capiz. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 7500 is approved on third reading. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 10242. This is the bill granting electric franchise to Pampanga Rural Electric Service Cooperative, Presco. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Senate Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act granting the Pampanga Rural Electric Service Cooperative a franchise for the conveyance of electric power to the end users in 34 barangays in Mexico, Arayat, Santa Ana, and Magalang, Pampanga. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 10242 is approved on third reading. Before we continue, upon the request of and clarification of the Honorable Legarda, Chair would like to once again correct the vote in regard to Senate Bill number 2899 on the Nuclear Safety and Security Safeguards Utilization Act, for her vote to be recorded as having abstained. So for the record, the vote on Senate Bill number 2899 shall be 21 in the affirmative, 1 negative, and 1 abstention. Duly so ordered to be entered into the records. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 10483. This is the bill granting electric franchise to Benguet Electric Cooperative, Inc. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Senate Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act granting Benguet Electric Cooperative a franchise for the conveyance of electric power to the municipalities in the province of Benguet and in Baguio City. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino,
Yes.
Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 10483 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 10243. This is the bill granting electric franchise to Aklan Electric Cooperative, Akelco. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Senate Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act granting the Aklan Electric Cooperative a franchise for the conveyance of electric power to the end users in the province of Aklan, municipalities of Pandan and Libertad, in Antique, and in the Mayan, Sapian province of Capiz. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo,
Yes.
Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 10243 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 6013. This is the bill on the creation of Barangay Pulong Bulo in San Fernando, Pampanga. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Senate Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act creating a barangay in San Fernando, Pampanga, to be known as the Barangay Pulong Bulo. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 6013 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 5555. This is the bill on the creation of Barangay Friendship Village Resources in Norsagaray, Bulacan. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act creating a barangay in Norsagaray, Bulacan, to be known as the Barangay Friendship Village Resources or Barangay FVR. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo,
Yes.
Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 5555 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 10885. This is the bill establishing the Zamboanga del Sur Second District Hospital. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act establishing in San Miguel, Zamboanga del Sur, the Zamboanga del Sur Second District Hospital. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino,
Yes.
Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 10885 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 11162. This is the bill establishing the Aurora Medical Center in Balera, Aurora. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act establishing in Baler, Aurora, the Aurora Medical Center. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Ligarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11162 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 11163. This is the bill establishing the Liloy General Hospital in Liloy, Zamboanga del Norte. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. Secretary.
An act establishing in Liloy, Zamboanga del Norte, the Liloy General Hospital. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11163 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider on third readings House Bill number 10080. This is the bill upgrading the Quirino Province Medical Center. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Secretary, please.
An act upgrading the Quirino Province Medical Center in Cabariguis, Province of Quirino, into a Level 3 General Hospital. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 10080 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 10405. This is the bill establishing the Dinagat Island State College. So move, Mr. President.
An objection? There being none, motion is approved.
An act establishing a state college in the Lone District of the Province of Dinagat Islands. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 10405 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 10622. This is the bill establishing the Sarangani State College. So move, Mr. President.
An objection? There being none, motion is approved.
An act establishing a state college in Alabel, Sarangani. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 23 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 10622 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 9314. This is the bill on the Rinconada State College Charter. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
An act converting the Bao Community College in Bao, Province of Camarines Sur, into a state college to be known as the Rinconada State College. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 23 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 9314 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 9642. This is the bill on the Aurora State University of Science and Technologies Charter. So move, Mr. President.
An objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
And now converting the Aurora State College of Technology in Baler, Aurora into a state university. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 23, I stand corrected. With 23 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 9642 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 11162. This is the bill establishing the Aurora Medical Center in Baler, Aurora. So move, Mr. President.
An objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
And now converting the Aurora State College of Technology in Baler into a state university to be known as Aurora State University of Science and Technology. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda. Sir JB, next.
Approve this on third reading. May
Number
we proceed
25.
to the next one? House Bill number 9155.
25.
I move to consider a third reading House Bill number 9155. This is the bill on the renewal of franchise of PEC Broadcasting Corporation. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
An act renewing for another 25 years the franchise granted to PEC Broadcasting Corporation under RA 8685. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 23 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 9155 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 10698. This is the bill granting electric franchise to Camarines Sur 4 Electric Cooperative Incorporated or Casureco 4. So move, Mr. President.
An objection? There being none, motion is approved.
An act granting the Camarines Sur 4 Electric Cooperative a franchise for the conveyance of electric power to the end users in the province of Camarines Sur. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 23 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 10698 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 11042. This is the bill granting electric franchise to First Laguna Electric Cooperative Incorporated or FLECO. So move, Mr. President.
An objection? There being none, motion is approved.
An act granting a franchise to First Laguna Electric Cooperative Inc., FLECO, for the conveyance of electric power to the end users in the province of Laguna. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 23 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11042 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 11189. This is the bill on the Barangay Ayala, Alabang in Muntinlupa. So move, Mr. President.
An objection? There being none, motion is approved.
An act renaming Barangay New Alabang Village in Muntinlupa as Barangay Ayala, Alabang. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senator Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 23 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11189 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 4839. This is the bill declaring a special working holiday in Lapu-Lapu City, Cebu. So move, Mr. President.
An objection? There being none, motion is approved.
An act declaring June 17 of every year special working holiday in Lapu-Lapu, province of Cebu. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 4839 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 9601. That this is the bill on Bataan High School for Sports Act. So move, Mr. President.
An objection? There being none, motion is approved.
An act establishing a high school for sports in Bagak, Bataan, to be known as the Bataan High School for Sports. Roll call vote. Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 9601 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 9602. This is the bill on Baybay City High School for Sports Act. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
An act establishing the Baybay City High School for Sports in Baybay, Leyte. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, 0 abstention, House Bill number 9602 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 11038. This is the bill establishing Doos del Norte National High School in Leyte. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
An act establishing a national high school in Doos del Norte, Hindang, Leyte, to be known as Doos del Norte National High School. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11038 is approved on third reading. Majority Floor Leader.
I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 11185. This is the bill establishing the Tanay National High School in Tanay, Rizal. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act establishing a national science high school in Tanay, Rizal, to be known as the Tanay National Science High School. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11185 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 11167. This is the bill on the Alegria Integrated School in Barcelona, Sorsogon. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act converting the Alegria Elementary School in Alegria, Barcelona, Sorsogon into an integrated school to be known as Alegria Integrated School. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11167 is approved on third reading. Majority Floor Leader.
I move to consider third reading House Bill number 11351. This is the bill on the Patag Integrated School in Irosin, Sorsogon. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act converting the Patag Elementary School in Patag, Irosin, Province of Sorsogon into an integrated school to be known as the Patag Integrated School. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11351 is approved on third reading. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third reading House Bill number 11299. This is the bill recognizing the Singapore School of Cebu as an educational institution. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act recognizing Singapore School Cebu as an educational institution of international character and granting certain prerogatives conducive to its development and growth. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senator Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11299 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 11300. This is the bill recognizing the Singapore School Clerk as an educational institution. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Senate Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
An act recognizing Singapore School Clerk as an educational institution of international character and granting certain prerogatives conducive to its development and growth. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ejercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11300 is approved on third reading. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 11301. This is the bill recognizing the Singapore School Manila as an educational institution. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed to roll call vote.
Anak recognizes Singapore School Manila as an educational institution of international character and granting certain prerogatives conducive to its development and growth. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11301 is approved on third reading. And finally, Majority Floor Leader.
Finally, Mr. President, I move to consider on third reading House Bill number 11302. This is the bill recognizing the Singapore School Manila Green Campus as an educational institution. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Senate Secretary is directed to comply and to proceed with roll call vote.
Anak recognizes Singapore School Manila Green Campus as an educational institution of international character and granting certain prerogatives conducive to its development and growth. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Binay, Cayetano A, Cayetano P, De La Rosa, Ercito, Estrada, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Padilla, Pimentel, Poe, Revilla, Tolentino, Tulfo, Villanueva, Villar C, Villar M, Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 22 affirmative votes, 0 negative, 0 abstention, House Bill number 11302 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President,
Majority Floor Leader.
the good minority, the distinguished minority leader is urgently seeking the floor. I move that he be recognized.
What is the pleasure of the Honorable Minority Floor Leader, the Honorable Aquilino Pimentel?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today on a question of privilege. That's why I'm asking for the understanding of our colleagues that their explanation.
I
of
yield,
which
Mr. President, to the minority leader.
Thank you. May be heard later, Mr. President. Under Section
The
107,
gentleman may proceed.
under Section 107 of the Rules of the Senate. Section 107, questions of privilege are those affecting the rights, privileges, reputation, conduct, decorum, and dignity of the Senate or of its members, as well as the integrity of its proceedings. Because of the impeachment case against the Vice President, the Senate itself is now on trial. The reputation and dignity of this institution we hold so dear, painstakingly built up by the many senators who have served before us, together with our own efforts, are now being attacked online and in the real world out there. Outside our own gates this morning, there was a demonstration involving a substantial number of our constituents. The root cause of this is the apprehension of our people, based on recent pronouncements and developments, that there will be no impeachment trial against Vice President Sara Duterte. Respected academic institutions and other organizations have spoken with one voice. We call on the Senate of the Philippines to comply with its constitutional duty to forthwith proceed with the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Z. Duterte. These are the UP College of Law faculty, the Philippine Political Science Association, the San Beda University Graduate School of Law, the Ateneo School of Government, De La Salle University, University of Santo Tomas, and Adamson University, among others. I am submitting copies of their statements to the Secretariat to form part of the records of the Senate. The people have also taken to Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and other social media platforms to voice their concerns and frustrations. Across these channels, the sentiment is clear and growing. Nagkaroon ng agam-agam ang taong bayan. Bakit parang pinapatay na ang impeachment proceedings? This question reflects a deep unease among our citizens, a growing fear that the impeachment process is being deliberately stalled or even quietly ended. There is confusion as well as distrust at a time when our constitutional duty demands decisive and quick action and not unnecessary delays and endless debate on whether our duty is optional, captured by the phrase, if at all. What is that constitutional duty which I have just mentioned? It is a mandate or directive addressed to the Senate and is found in Article 11, Section 3, Paragraph 4 of the 1987 Constitution. And I will read it. In case the verified complaint or resolution of impeachment is filed by at least one-third of all the members of the House of Representatives, the same shall constitute the articles of impeachment, and trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed. Since the time we received the articles of impeachment from the House of Representatives on February 5, 2025, I have been very vocal that trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed. I wrote the Senate President a letter dated February 14, 2025, expressing the following ideas, and I quote from the said letter. According to the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, forthwith means without any delay or without interval of time. Its synonyms include immediately, instantaneously, instantly, presently, promptly, right away, right now, straight off, and straight away, among others. Considering that the 1987 Constitution was promulgated in both English and Filipino, we must examine its official Filipino translation. Kung ang pinanumpaang sakdal o resolusyon sa impeachment ay iniharap ng isang katlo man lamang ng lahat ng mga kagawad ng kapulungan, iyon ay dapat bumuo sa articles of impeachment at dapat isunod agad ang paglilitis ng Senado. The Filipino translation for forthwith is agad, which conveys immediacy. The synonyms of this Filipino word include madali, bigla, dagli, o karakaraka, which denote urgency or promptness. The above elaboration affirms that it is the Senate's duty to act on the impeachment case of Vice President Sara Duterte without any delay or without interval of time. I repeat that this is the Senate's duty. I am submitting a copy of my letter dated February 14, 2025 to the Senate Secretariat to form part of the records of the Senate. In spite of all of my efforts, member of the minority na nga ako, I am also being hit by all these attacks against the Senate. How much more kayo pong nasa majority? We should all be concerned about what is happening. One writer wrote, all of the country's senators, yes, all of them, as embodiments of the Senate, are failing the Filipino people. Hence, I have every right to stand up to express my question of privilege as I worry about our beloved institution's reputation, integrity, dignity, and even our place in Philippine history. It is now June 9, 2025, or more than 4 months since the filing of the articles of impeachment, and the Senate has not yet started the trial. Tama lang po na mainip ang taong bayan kung kailan ba natin gagampanan ang constitutional duty natin. Indeed, there is a reason for the no trial fears of our countrymen. To remind us, the articles of impeachment transmitted by the House of Representatives on February 5, 2025 read as follows. Article 1, respondent betrayed the public trust, committed culpable violations of the Constitution, and or committed high crimes in contracting an assassin and plotting to murder or assassinate the incumbent president, the First Lady, and Speaker of the House of Representatives, as publicly admitted by her in a live broadcast. Article 2, respondent betrayed the public trust and or committed graft and corruption in her misuse and malversation of confidential funds appropriated to the office of the Vice President, open and close parenthesis, OVP, and the Department of Education, open and close parenthesis, DepEd. Article 3, respondent betrayed the public trust and or committed bribery and or other acts of graft and corruption in violation of Republic Act number 3019. Article 4, respondent committed culpable violations of the Constitution and or betrayal of public trust in amassing unexplained wealth and failing to disclose all her properties and interests in properties in her statement of assets and net worth, open and close parentheses, Sal N, in violation of Section 17, Article 11 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. Article 5, respondent committed other high crimes, including the high crime of murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Article 6, respondent by herself and or in concert with others committed acts of destabilization constituting at least a betrayal of public trust and or culpable violations of the Constitution and even the high crimes of sedition and insurrection. Article 7, the totality of respondents' conduct as Vice President, including her commission of the foregoing acts, clearly display conduct constituting a betrayal of public trust, culpable violations of the 1987 Constitution, and graft and corruption. These allegations are serious. They demand nothing less than a prompt and faithful discharge of our constitutional duties. Actually, all matters of impeachment are serious and important. Just look at the grounds provided by the Constitution. Culpable violation of the Constitution, treason, bribery, graft and corruption, other high crimes, and betrayal of public trust. The Senate President refused to convene the Senate as the impeachment court from February to May 2025 because he believes that the Senate could not act on the articles of impeachment while it was not in legislative session. We have an honest difference of opinion on this matter. For the record, I believe that the Senate has a separate existence as the impeachment court from the Senate, which is a part of the legislative department. The Senate as the impeachment court is governed by Article 11 of the 1987 Constitution. The Senate as a part of the legislative department is governed by Article 6. In short, legislative functions of the Senate are found in Article 6. The other functions of the Senate found outside of Article 6 of the Constitution are therefore what we can call the Senate's non-legislative functions. This conclusion is bolstered by the case of Pimentel Jr. versus Joint Committee of Congress, which involved the function of the Senate as part of the National Board of Canvassers for President and Vice President, a function which is found in Article 7 of the Constitution. The Supreme Court ruled in this case that the legislative functions of the 12th Congress may have come to a close upon the final adjournment of its regular sessions on June 11, 2004, but this does not affect its non-legislative functions. What is more important to me is the entry in the judgment which states as follows. In sum, despite the adjournment sine die of Congress, there is no legal impediment to the Joint Committee completing the tasks assigned to it and transmitting its report for the approval of the joint public session of both houses of Congress, which may reconvene without need of call by the President to a special session. I want to focus on the phrase, without need of call. There shall be no need of a call because the Constitution itself recognizes Congress's existence as the National Board of Canvassers for the presidential and vice presidential elections and mandates the holding of a joint public session. So in short, the source of the existence of the body and the authority and power to carry out its function and duty is the Constitution itself. It is therefore undeniable that the Senate has duties and functions that are not legislative in nature. As an additional argument, still on this honest difference of opinion, let us look at Article 6, Section 19 of the Constitution. Meron naman yung copy ng rules natin dyan ng Constitution. This section talks about two bodies of which Congress, including the Senate, is a member of: the electoral tribunals and the Commission on Appointments. There is a sentence here in that section that the Commission on Appointments shall meet only while the Congress is in session. Meaning to say that if the sentence were not in the Constitution, then the Commission on Appointments can meet even while the Congress is not in session. The electoral tribunals can therefore meet even when the Congress is not in session because there is no such sentence applicable to the electoral tribunals. Unlike the provisions concerning the Commission on Appointments, there is no similar constitutional limitation found in Article 11 on when the Senate as the impeachment court can convene, meet, or hold sessions in order to perform its functions. Ulitin ko, wala pong sinasabi na ang Senado as the impeachment court shall meet only while the Congress is in session. Wala. Wala po yan. Clearly, therefore, the Senate as the impeachment court could have proceeded with the trial of the articles of impeachment even if the Senate as a legislative body was not in session. But that period of time from February to May 2025 is lost time already, like water which has passed under a bridge. To remedy the situation, let us focus on the here and now. Per the proposed calendar of the impeachment trial, attached as Annex A to the letter of the Senate President addressed to all senators dated February 24, 2025, we were supposed to have allowed the panel of prosecutors to present the articles of impeachment on June 2, 2025 at 3 p.m. and to have convened the Senate as the impeachment court on June 3 at 9 a.m. I am also submitting a copy of the letter of the Senate President dated February 24, 2025 with its Annex A to the Secretariat to form a part of the records of the Senate. It is stated in the said Annex A that the Senate hopes to adhere to the foregoing schedule and considering that both the prosecution and defense will have ample time to prepare for the proceedings, will not tolerate any dilatory motion or pleading. Before June 2 arrived, on May 29, the Senate President vacated this proposed calendar of the impeachment court and transferred the presentation of the articles of impeachment by the panel of prosecutors to June 11, 2025, which is a critical date because that happens to be the last day of the legislative session of the Senate per our existing legislative calendar. Last Monday, June 2, June 2, 2025, when I asked the Senate President before the plenary on the American practice in impeachment proceedings regarding the appearance of the prosecutors from the House of Representatives, the Senate President answered me with, and I quote, "That in turn will now trigger, if at all, the convening of the impeachment court, where the regular processes would now be followed." Diyan po kami natakot, diyan sa qualifier na if at all. That inserted qualifier casts doubt on whether the Senate leadership will follow what is otherwise a clear constitutional command. It suggests that even after the articles of impeachment have been read and presented, the convening of the impeachment court might still be discretionary or optional. This use of the if at all phrase has not escaped the notice of our citizens. The situation is exacerbated by the pronouncement of the Senate President that, in the end, Senate plenary is supreme. Add to this the circulation of a resolution, although admittedly a draft, declaring the impeachment case de facto dismissed. Can we therefore blame law professors, lawyers groups, civil society groups, known legal personalities, and even ordinary citizens for raising the alarm of a no-trial scenario? So how do we and can we remedy the situation we are right now? The remedy is simple. As senators, we have taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the Philippines, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Let us follow what the Constitution says, most especially those provisions which are directed at the Senate. Sabi ng Konstitusyon, trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed. There is no if, no unless, no when convenient. Indeed, the Senate has a constitutional duty to hold the trial of an impeachment complaint, especially when it has been filed by at least 1/3 of all the members of the House of Representatives, like in this case against the Vice President. Trial is the most fair course of action because the people need to know if their representatives acted properly and justly by hearing the evidence used by them in filing the impeachment case. And in the name of due process, we need to give the impeached officer the chance to defend himself or herself and clear his or her name. Klaruhin ko na ang pinag-uusapan natin dito ay kung ano ang constitutional duty ng Senado, hindi kung guilty or not guilty na ba ang impeached officer. Saka na ang hatol pagkatapos na ng trial. Ang importante ay mag-umpisa na ang trial proceedings kasi yan ang utos ng ating Constitution. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, any further delay not only undermines the explicit mandate of the Constitution and our rules, it risks eroding public trust in the Senate's capacity and capability to uphold the inaction or by merely refusing to convene as the impeachment court. The Senate seems to believe under Rule 10 of the Senate's Rules of Procedure on Impeachment Trials, at the hour of the day appointed for the trial of an impeachment, the legislative business of the Senate, if there be any, shall be suspended so that the business of the trial can proceed. So in the light of all of this, and in accordance with our solemn duty under the Constitution, I most respectfully move, number one, that our legislative business be suspended. Number two, that we already convene as the impeachment court at this very moment. Number three, that the Senate President immediately take his oath as presiding officer of the impeachment court. Number four, that thereafter, the Senate President / presiding officer administer the oath or affirmation to all the members of the Senate now present. Number five, that the impeachment court then call the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte and come up with a calendar for the trial thereof. Number six, that tomorrow, June 10, 2025, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the impeachment court call the impeachment case for the presentation and reading of the articles of impeachment by the panel of prosecutors of the House of Representatives. And number seven, that thereafter, the writ of summons be issued to the impeached officer. So I so move, Mr. President.
What is the pleasure of the Honorable Ontiveros?
Salamat Abi, Mr. President. I wish to second the motion of the Minority Leader through a manifestation.
All the motions of the Minority Floor Leader?
That is correct, Mr. President.
Duly noted.
May I deliver my manifestation seconding the motion of the Minority Leader, Mr.
The lady may
President?
proceed.
Salamat Abi, Mr. President. I second the motion of the good Minority Leader. Forthwith, and with no further delay, the Senate President must be placed under oath as presiding officer. He must then administer the oath to the members of the Senate as judges of the impeachment court. And most importantly, the articles of impeachment, which have long languished in limbo, must forthwith be presented to the body. First of all, the Constitution establishes with clarity the mandatory nature of impeachment, and this textual interpretation is supported by the framers. Article 11 on accountability of public officers, Section 3, subsection 4, states in no uncertain terms that once, quote, the verified complaint or resolution of impeachment is filed by at least 1/3 of all the members of the House, the same shall constitute the articles of impeachment, and trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed, close quote. Hindi po mahirap intindihin ang utos. sa sino mang tapatang intensyong sundin ito. Ang paglilitis ay dapat agarang simulan nang walang pag-iwas o iba pang pagpapaliban. In fact, retired Justice Adolfo Azcuna, who wrote the procedural section that included the word forthwith, said that it meant, and I quote, immediately and without unreasonable delay, or in the national language official version, agad-agad, close quote. Sa kasong Chavez versus Judicial and Bar Council, GR number 202242, na dinesisyonan noong July 17, 2012, ipinaliwanag ng Korte Suprema na sa pag-interpreta ng saligang batas, dapat gamitin ang karaniwang kahulugan. Quote, it is a well-settled principle of constitutional construction that the language employed in the Constitution must be given their ordinary meaning. Close quote. Simple lang po ang dahilan. Quote, the Constitution is not merely or not primarily a lawyer's document, but essentially that of the people, in whose consciousness it should ever be present as an important condition for the rule of law to prevail. Wala pong pagdududa. The impeachment trial must begin immediately, agad-agad, walang pag-iimbot. Yan rin ang paninindigan ng mga mismong naging bahagi ng pagbuo ng ating konstitusyon, kasama sina Attorney Rene Sarmiento, Chairperson Christian Monsod, at ang nabanggit kong si retired Supreme Court Justice Azcuna. Kahit ang mga profesor at praktikante ng batas sang-ayon na dapat simulan ang paglilitis sa lalong madaling panahon. Kasama dito ay mula sa Philippine Bar Association, University of the Philippines College of Law, Ateneo Schools and Colleges of Law, De La Salle University Tanyada Jokno School of Law, San Beda University Graduate School of Law, Philippine Law School, University of Santo Tomas, Lyceum of the Philippines College of Law, Adamson University College of Law, Colegio de San Juan de Letran, at Union of People's Lawyers Mindanao. I will submit these statements to the Secretariat and ask that they be made part of the official records of the Senate as annexes to this manifestation, seconding the motion of the Minority Leader. Moreover, a textual reading of the provisions on impeachment vis-a-vis the other provisions involving the legislature actually supports the contention that the impeachment proceeding is not bound by the legislative calendar. Ayon sa saligang batas, quote, the Commission on Appointments shall meet only while the Congress is in session at the call of its chairman or a majority of all its members to discharge such powers and functions as are herein conferred upon it, close quote. There is no such qualifier to be found in the provisions on impeachment. Secondly, beyond the textual clarity of the Constitution, the law should be interpreted to give life to its spirit. Ratio legis est anima. I am here before you to also appeal to the deeper purpose of the law. And the spirit of the impeachment power is unmistakable. It is accountability. It is to ensure that no public officer, however powerful, is above the Constitution. Sinasabi nila na ang impeachment ay nasa Article 11 or Accountability of Public Officers, portion ng ating saligang batas, at hindi nasa legislative powers o Article 6 to underscore that impeachment was never meant to be part of the legislative process. Tama po iyon. However, there is a deeper reason to be fleshed out. It is because the power to impeach is, at heart, the power, nay, the duty to hold public officers accountable and to protect democracy from the abuse of power by the highest officials, public officials of our land. This process must not be rendered impotent through procedural subterfuge. Dapat po nating alalahanin na ang salita at diwa ng mga probisyon ng saligang batas ay hindi dinesenyo para lang paglaruan ng mga abogado. Itinakda ang mga ito para bigyang kahulugan at kapangyarihan ang taong bayang Pilipino. Sa pinakaunang probisyon ng Article 11 kung saan matatagpuan ang impeachment ay nakasaad, quote, "Public office is a public trust. Public officers and employees must at all times be accountable to the people," close quote. Sa Article 1, Section 1 naman, quote, "Sovereignty resides in the people and all government authority emanates from them," close quote. Ang kapangyarihan ng bawat opisyal ng pamahalaan ay hinihiram lang po natin sa taong bayan. At ang kapangyarihang ito ay nakasalalay sa patuloy nilang pagtitiwala at sa patuloy nating pagiging katiwa-tiwala. Ang pagdinig ng mga akusasyon sa impeachment trial ay itinalaga ng saligang batas para sukatin kung karapat-dapat pa ring patuloy na ipagkatiwala sa mga pinakamataas na opisyal ng pamahalaan ang lubos na kapangyarihang iniatas ng taong bayan sa kanila. Proteksyon ito laban sa pagbabaluktot ng batas, malubhang abuso, korupsyon at pagtataksil sa interes ng publiko. Ang pagtakas sa responsibilidad na ito ay insulto sa bawat Pilipino. Thirdly, nothing in the Senate Rules of Procedure in impeachment trials provides basis for this inordinate delay. Much has been said about attempts to follow proper procedure, but our own Senate Rules of Procedure on impeachment trials are bereft of any basis to justify the undeniable delay that has defined the Senate's proceedings thus far. Wala pong sinabi sa rules on impeachment na susundin ang legislative calendar, na bawal mag-impeachment trial on legislative recess, o na pag tinransmit sa last day yung articles of impeachment, ay kailangang in limbo ito, nakabitin sa ere. The inaction of our body on the articles of impeachment transmitted by the House of Representatives on February 5, 2025, is not because of anything definitive or inescapable written in the rules. Hindi po tayo inipit ng rules. Hindi po natin pwedeng sabihin na wala tayong choice, that we were straitjacketed by what our rules on procedure provided. We had a choice every step of the way. And our choice has been to delay, to drag our feet, to hide behind what we say are legal ambiguities. Tapos ngayon, if I might add, biglang bibilisan. An impeachment trial of all of 3 days. We've dragged our feet for several months, and then suddenly we tell the Filipino public that we are able to sift through the evidence and exact accountability from the second highest official in our land within a period of 3 days. What insanity is this? Lastly, I wish to address the point made by the good Senate President, who stated that the Senate cannot be dictated upon and that the Senate plenary is supreme. Respectfully, while the Senate is granted the power and duty to try and decide impeachment cases, its authority is not unbounded. If it acts in violation of the Constitution itself, it can and should be corrected. Wala po sa rules na ang pagsisimula ng paglilitis at pag-convene ng impeachment court ay kailangan pang pagbotohan at aprubahan ng mayorya. Anyone who objects to commencing the impeachment trial is objecting to the Constitution itself. In the case of Francisco Jr. versus House of Representatives, GR number 160261, promulgated on November 10, 2003, the Supreme Court ruled, quote, "It is basic that all rules must not contravene the Constitution, which is the fundamental law. If, as alleged, Congress had absolute rule-making power, then it would by necessary implication have the power to alter or amend the meaning of the Constitution without need of referendum," close quote. Wala pong kapangyarihan ang Senado na iwaksi ang malinaw na utos ng saligang batas. Hinihimo ko po ang pinuno at mga kasamahan ko sa Senado. Sundin po natin ang malinaw na mandato ng saligang batas. Galangin po natin ang taong bayang nagbigay ng tiwala sa atin. At simulan na po natin ang impeachment trial na ito. Dapat ay madali ang dinggin ito at ang paglilitis, sinsero at hindi minamadali. Kakulang pasasalamat, Mr. President.
Duly noted and entered into the records. What is the pleasure of the Honorable Senator Tolentino?
Mr. President, we heard a few minutes ago the the statement delivered by the distinguished minority leader. And it would appear, Mr. President, that multiple motions were inserted calling for a ruling, not just from this body, but from the chair. As a point of information, Mr. President, may we know from the distinguished minority leader if he can just subdivide what is the main motion, what is the subsidiary motion, what is the incidental motion, because it appears now that this is confusing, Mr. President, especially on a matter of transcendental and constitutional importance, Mr. President.
With the permission of the Senate President.
Before recognizing the Honorable Minority Leader, what is the pleasure of the
Thank you.
Honorable Villanueva?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Minority Leader, Majority Leader. With the indulgence of our dear colleagues, this might be a prejudicial question before we actually dispense with the motion of the Minority Leader. But first things first, Mr. President, let me state for the record this representation's position from day one, Mr. President. The word forthwith, the crossing from 19th to 20th Congress, everything that the Minority Leader mentioned, Mr. President, ay sinishare ng representation na ito. Kailangan mag-convene ang impeachment court, kailangan magsimula, ngunit naniniwala din po ako, Mr. President, and since day one, when the Senate President made mention about the June 2 schedule, this representation did not oppose nor pose an objection in this August chamber, Mr. President, because I believe what the Senate President is doing when he extended it to June 11. I don't see any reason, or I would say undue delay, unnecessary delay, etc., because I think all of us here during that time would agree that the trial would commence on the 20th Congress. And having said that, Mr. President, let me just put into the records, Mr. President, our own rules, Mr. President, in the rules of impeachment, Rule 1, the Senate President must actually issue a notice, Mr. President, to the House of Representatives. And that's the reason why he wrote a letter in June 2 and then June 11, Mr. President. If I heard it right, Mr. President, and that's why I wanted to be clarified on this particular issue, if I heard it right, the Minority Leader's motion is for us to stop legislative work and start taking the oath of the Senate President as the presiding officer of the impeachment court and the senator judges. It would also mean, Mr. President, that we assume that the impeachment proceeding, the articles of impeachment had already been referred, Mr. President, because we have not. And so let me just put that on record, Mr. President. And again, I thank the Minority Leader and again share his views about the immediate convening of our impeachment court. And I don't see any reason, Mr. President, why we should convene now than on Wednesday, Mr. President, which is 2 days from now. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Minority Leader.
So, Mr. President, so that we can
The Minority Leader will respond to the
so we can dispose of the pending
clarification
matter.
asked for by
Yes.
Senator Tolentino. Yes.
Yes.
You may proceed, sir.
So that so that the body can properly act on the pending matter which I have raised in my question of privilege based on our rules. I therefore move that we already convene convene as the impeachment court at this very moment, Mr. President. That's the motion, Mr. President. And we expect a ruling, Mr. President.
If I may, I have already mentioned earlier, Mr. President, and because this representation wouldn't want to raise a point of order. And again, for the record, I share the sentiments of the minority leader. We have the same position as to the convening of the impeachment court. We have the same position as to whether or not it will pass through the 19th to 20th Congress. It's the same, Mr. President. But again, I don't want to raise a point of order, Mr. President, but in our rules, Mr. President, you yourself, in Rule 1 of the Rules of Procedure on impeachment trials, let me quote, Mr. President, when the Senate receives articles of impeachment pursuant to Article 11, Section 2 and 3 of the Constitution, the President of the Senate shall inform the House of Representatives that the Senate shall take proper order on the subject of impeachment and shall be ready to receive the prosecutors on such time and date as the Senate may specify. So, Mr. President, I wanted to find out if the motion of the minority leader will push through, what would happen, Mr. President, if you have not issued any notice, Mr. President? What would happen to your letters na from June 2 ginawa nating June 11? Does it also mean, Mr. President, na baliwala na po ito? So that is just a procedural question, Mr. President. And again, let me put again on the record that I have the same position as the minority leader, that if we can convene as much as possible, Mr. President, the impeachment court, I would go for it, Mr. President. Thank you.
Mr. President, there
Before
is no,
Senator De La Rosa, the Honorable
there
Pimentel.
is no basis to raise a point of order because no provision or section of our rules has been violated. And that factual question from our colleague that the Senate President shall take proper order on the subject of impeachment has been done. There is a letter from the Senate President to the House dated May 19, 2025.
Which will be on June 11, Your Honor.
No. Hindi na po ito. Ang ibig sabihin lang po nito, itong ating Rule 1 ng ating Rules on Procedure on Impeachment Trials. Sabihin lang ng Senate President sa House that the Senate has taken proper order of the subject of impeachment and we are ready to receive the prosecutors on such date and time that we will tell you. So yun na po yun. So I think this has been satisfied by the does the Secretariat confirm the May 19, 2025 communication from the Senate President to the House of Representatives? Tama po ba?
But at the same time, na-refer na ba yung
The Secretariat confirms a letter dated May 19, setting the convening of the impeachment court supposedly on June 3, which was later on amended at a later date, setting it on June 11. Before recognizing the Honorable De La Rosa, Chair would like to make of record that as stated in the February 24, 2025 letter of the Chair to all the members of the Senate, where we quoted all the relevant Supreme Court decisions and rules and the basis for the action of the Senate President and Chair, namely, citing precedents as well as the practice both in the past by the Senate of the Philippines and by the U.S. Senate, na nagsasabi, kailangan mabasa in open session ang articles of impeachment. This is clear from the practice in the United States where we lifted, as the gentleman previously stated, more than a majority of our rules, and this was also done in the impeachment complaint. The only impeachment complaint that actually went through to the end during the impeachment trial of Chief Justice Corona. The impeachment articles were read in plenary before it was referred to the impeachment court. However, it was done by the majority leader at that time. That was the first time it was done, not written in our rules too, but when the Secretariat checked precedents and practice in the United States, it was actually the House prosecutors that did it, or who usually does it in the United States. Hence, the notice given for the June 2nd, June 3rd reading by the House prosecutors of the articles of impeachment. Thereafter, that will now be referred to the impeachment court, which will give rise to the creation of the impeachment court, the oath of this representation, as well as the members of the Senate, and the convening of the court to approve its rules and to set the calendar of the court, both either in this Congress or in the next Congress. For the record, as stated by Senator Villanueva, and as I stated, both off the record, meaning in media interviews, that the chair is of the belief that this will cross over to the 20th Congress, very much like the citations given by the Honorable Pimentel, not only because presidents in the U.S. so state, we have our own precedents too with respect to the Senate Electoral Tribunal, where the questions pertain to a term spanning 6 years, which therefore crosses over to the next Congress, despite the fact that the members of the Supreme Court constituting the SET and members of the Senate constituting the SET have been changed in the course of the change of the new Congress. And finally, as a point, Chair also made known his position that as a general rule and as a general principle, the law frowns upon starting something and not finishing it. Tulad na lamang ng mga kaso na kabinbin sa korte, hindi porkit nagpalit ng judge o nagpalit ng mga maestrado ng korte, automatic dismissed yung kaso. Magpapatuloy yung kaso hanggang yon ay matapos. Before recognizing Senator Pimentel, may I ask, what is the pleasure of the Honorable De La Rosa, who was earlier raising his hand in the middle of the discussions?
Mr. President, if I may, just very quick,
With the permission
Mr. President.
of the
With the
Honorable
permission
De La
of
Rosa,
my two colleagues.
The
Mr.
Honorable
President,
Pimentel, the Honorable
very
Cayetano,
short,
Senator
Mr. President.
Villanueva is
Very short.
recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Very short lang, Mr. President. Again, I am in the same position of the minority leader, but I just wanted to make sure that we are doing the right thing, the right process, and that we are, because we are men of rules, Mr. President, we wanted to make sure that we are in the right position to do this. The reading and the referral of the articles of impeachment in session, Mr. President, was done during the impeachment of former President Estrada, November 14, 2000. During the impeachment of Ombudsman Gutierrez, it was also referred, Mr. President, in session, during the last day of session, March 23, 2011. In the impeachment of Chief Justice Corona, it was also referred, Mr. President. It's just that, that's why, Mr. President, I just have this belief that we should refer first, Mr. President, before we can make that motion. And I will join the gentleman from the minority, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President.
Noted. Senator, what is the pleasure of the Honorable Cayetano?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just have to be clarified on some points, and this is in relation, of course, to the minority leader, the deputy minority leader, and to our former majority leader. So if I may proceed and just lay out the basis for my inquiry. First,
Gentleman may proceed.
Well, first, let me start out by saying I pray for wisdom for all of us, and I ask everyone to continue to pray for wisdom for us. I also like to state before I say my inquiry, it's unfair to just blame the Senate President. 23 naman tayong senador eh. Conscious naman tayo lahat ng February 5. Nandito naman tayo, pwede naman tayo mag-object ng, nung nag-adjourn, nung final yan. So, as the minority leader said, nandyan na yan, wag na natin tignan yung nakalipas. Forward na tayo, no? Second, I just want to comment dun sa mga law schools. I appreciate it, and I'm happy they're very active, and I'm happy that they have statements. But may I advise them also to be consistent? Kasi si Congressman Cardema nag-file ng impeachment laban sa Pangulo. Hindi tinanggap sa House eh. Wala naman ako narinig. na mga sinasabi na dapat ang konstitusyon masunod at dapat tinanggap ng House yan. So of course, hindi naman trabaho ng mga law schools na in each and every impeachment case magsalita. Pero in a highly charged environment. Can you imagine, Mr. President, during the campaign, sa mismong media interviews ng top news channels natin, tatanungin yung kandidato, pag kayo nanalo, are you for or against the impeachment case? Eh, klaro naman ang sagot doon eh. Ang sagot doon, hindi kami pwede mag-comment kasi magiging judge kami. Pero hindi. Sinagot pa rin ng mga kandidato at tinanong pa rin ng media. Pero kung konstitusyon ang masusunod, ang sagot doon iisa lang, mag-o-oath kami, dapat neutral kami. Eh kaya lang eleksyon eh. Kasi masama naman talaga timing ng pagka-file nito eh. Magpa-file ka during the campaign. That's the reality there. Kaya nga sa US, pagka-jury system, pwede mo i-sequester yung jury eh. Papayag ba tayo nung February na i-sequester tayong 23? Na ikukulong tayo at hindi tayo makikinig sa kahit anong media at i-determine natin ito? Maybe may papayag sa atin, meron hindi. But wag na tayo magsisihan. So I'll go to my question. So maybe that's why Shakespeare said, if you want justice, first kill all the lawyers. Diba? Eh kasi nga labanan ng mga abogado to, pero hindi ibig sabihin na wala silang mga personal na bias nila. Mahirap magsalita dito na insulto sa lahat ng Pilipino to, eto ang gusto ng taong bayan. Eh, ang daming lugar sa buong Pilipinas eh, yung Duterte nanalo eh. Eh, ang kampanya nila, wag ituloy yung impeachment eh. So, sasabihin ko ba na yun ang will ng tao? Pero kung titingnan ko naman lahat ng comments ngayon sa Facebook, sa SOCMED, gusto naman ituloy. Pati si Vice President Sara, sabi niya, I want to be held accountable. So, siya yung sabihin ko, yan ang gusto ng taong bayan. Napakahirap po nung sitwasyon natin. That's why we need wisdom. But first question ko po, prejudicial question. Ano bang rules ang unang masusunod? Rules ng Senate o rules ng impeachment? Bakit to importante at bakit to prejudicial question? Tinitignan ko po kaninang umaga yung comment, allegedly, hindi ko sure, wala naman nakalagay doon na siguradong totoo yun, but meron pong comment ang defense team ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Correct me if I'm wrong, Senator Bato, Senator Bongo, my good friend, my brother, Senator Robin, kasi hindi ko alam kung official yon. To paraphrase, ang sabi nila, hindi magandang mag-comment sila, but they'd like to reiterate na tingin nila labag sa konstitusyon yung impeachment complaint na to dahil ito'y pang-apat at lumalabag to sa isang complaint sa isang taon. Okay. Kung yun ang stand nila, sino po ang hihimay sa issue na yan? Ang plenary ba under the Senate rules? Or yung impeachment court under the impeachment rules? Bakit ko po ito sinasabi? Kung may pinadalang bill ngayon yung House of Representatives, halimbawa dyan sa 200 pesos, at second reading pa lang halimbawa siya, pag ni-refer natin sa Committee on Rules natin yan, magbabaycam na ba kagad tayo o sasabihin natin, sandali lang, second reading pa lang sila, kailangan mo ng third reading pa lang. Ang sinasabi sa akin ni Senator Villanueva ngayon, pinadala lahat ng records except for the bill that they passed. So we cannot act on the 200 peso minimum wage, additional sa minimum wage. But that's my point, Mr. President. Sino po magde-decide? Tayo po ba as senators o tayo as senator judges? Kung nilabag ang konstitusyon doon. And doon naman ako sumasang-ayon sa mga law schools. Let's proceed. Let's look at it. But yun nga ang question. Yung complaint ba is firm, legal, according to Constitution, or may constitutional infirmity ito? My last question is just a question of logic. Nag-move yung ating minority leader na to convene na as a impeachment court. Yung ating deputy, sabi niya, hindi na kailangan magbotohan. Eh pag nag-move ka, may botohan. So sino masusunod sa dalawa? Why do I say this? I'm saying it not because it's funny that one will move and then kailangang magbotohan and the other one will move na magbotohan. Eh kung matalo botohan, eh sabi niya hindi kailangan ng botohan eh. I say this for a simple practical reality. When you say the Senate, it is composed of 24 or in this case 23 senators. So pag sinabi mong gumalaw ang Senado, ibig sabihin po either walang nag-object or may botohan at yung majority masusunod. I cannot say right now, like Senator Villanueva, that I'm 100% in agreement with Senator Coco and Senator Risa. I can tell you I'm in agreement with certain things they've said. For example, Mr. President, it's our constitutional duty, kailangan mag-proceed. We should have done it earlier. But again, I won't blame you, I won't blame them, I'll blame myself. I could have written you a letter. I could have said na February, mag-ano na tayo. But let me just explain that one point. Why didn't I write you a letter, Mr. President? Kasi pag Pangulo yung ini-impeach, every single day na nandyan, kung totoo ang allegation sa Presidente, we all suffer. The country suffers, our institution suffers, accountability suffers. Pero pag Vice President, especially ngayon, hindi naman siya binigyan ng ibang trabaho eh. Wala naman siya sa kabinete. Yes, I want accountability. Pero between today and Wednesday, I'd rather pass yung Konektadong Pinoy at saka yung e-government at lahat ng ibang bills na naka-pending dyan. So, Mr. President, may I end by reiterating the question. Do we follow first the rules of the Senate or do we go into the impeachment court? Sino magde-decide nung allegations ng defense na na-violate ang Constitution sa one impeachment per year? The second is just to continue my observation, Mr. President. I agree with many here. Wala tayong choice, forthwith. But I disagree na sa Tagalog, agad-agad ang forthwith. Ang forthwith, yung ano, ibig sabihin nun sa Tagalog is ano eh. Yan na yung susunod. Yan na yung gagawin mo. Oo, immediate yung agad-agad. Hindi ako expert sa linguistics, pero medyo hindi agad ang Tagalog ng forthwith. Yung immediately, yon agad yon or agad-agad, di ba? So, maya-maya, hindi, ibig sabihin ng forthwith, at sangayon naman ako eh, ang ibig sabihin ng forthwith, wala ka nang, to quote dos por dos, susunod na. O yun ang ibig sabihin ng forthwith. Yung wala ka nang hihintayin, yun na. Kaya agree ako sa inyo na kailangan talakayin natin yung impeachment complaint. Pero gusto kong iklaro, sa tama o sa mali, botohan ang mangyayari sa atin. Hindi pwede pong bumoto yung 15 na hindi magko-convene yung impeachment. Tapos siyam kami o 8 tayong magpapakita doon na naka-robe. Kasi sinabi ng 15, hindi magko-convene eh. Anong pwedeng gawin? Pupunta ka ng Supreme Court, uutusan tayo ngayon ng Supreme Court. Yun ang legal system natin, Mr. President. So sana, tama desisyon natin para hindi na tayo maghintay na utusan pa tayo ng Supreme Court. Pero yung sabihin na walang botohan dito, I agree with the spirit nung sinasabi ni Senator Risa na dapat wala na. But the practical reality is that you have one senator who asked for a vote. We have to vote and the majority will follow. But yun nga, Mr. President, reiterate ko lang yung tanong ko. So dito po sa one-year rule, sino po magde-decide niya? Is it the Senate sitting as legislator, so rules muna ng Senate? Or is it the impeachment court? Because if it is the Senate, we cannot yet convene as an impeachment court because we haven't tackled that issue. But if it is the impeachment court, then we can go, and that's the first issue that we will have to tackle, whether it is a valid complaint. No? At tinatanong ko lawyers ko, hati din po eh. Sabi nung kalahati, hindi, dapat yung Senate kasi it's treated like any other legislative matter. Titignan muna natin kung tama yung pagka-transmit sa atin. Eh malay mo, transmit sa atin, na-hack pala. Hindi pala galing sa House of Representatives. That might sound like a silly example, but it is. It is possible. That's why we have to look at it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Before the chair responds, chair would like to afford the opportunity to the other members who would want to add to the discussion and the knowledge being imparted regarding the subject matter at hand.
Mr. President, Senator De La Rosa is seeking the
Senator De La Rosa was earlier raising his hand but gave way to Senators Villanueva and Cayetano. What is the pleasure of the Honorable De La Rosa, sir?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, according to Senator Cayetano, ito'y labanan ng mga abogado. Hindi po ako abogado, Mr. President, but I just would like to manifest my observation na, to be fair to the Senate President, pag sinabi natin na you have an intention to delay the impeachment proceedings, I would like to state for the record, Mr. President, na 1 month ago pa, pinagawan muna kami ng robe, Mr. President. Kasi excited na tayo na sumuot ng robe para to form the impeachment court. To be fair with you, Mr. President, you've been preparing for that. And yung schedule natin na naka-schedule sa Wednesday, which is 11, if we give the ruling today, whether ano ba talagang gusto natin, today or Wednesday, I support you, Mr. President, kung anong gusto natin schedule. Sana mapag-usapan natin ngayon. Hindi ako abogado, pero ako ay isang Pilipino na gusto sana na hindi na tayo magkakagulo sa Pilipinas. Hindi tayo magkawatak-watak. At yung mga nagyayabang dyan, na sabi nila, gusto daw ng taong bayan, na ito ay talagang magkakaroon na kagad ng impeachment, taong bayan, ginagamit. I don't know kung sinong taong bayan yung sabi nila. Because, alam ko, Mr. President, halos lahat ng tao ng Mindanao at ng Visayas, as I have observed during the campaign period, ang sabi sa atin is, Sir, ibubuto kita kung hindi ka magboto sa impeachment or hindi ka magboto sa conviction. Yun ang sinasabi ng taong bayan. Kaya please, do not use the term taong bayan palagi because taong bayan is hindi lang kayo. There are always two sides of the coin. Bakit ba? Wala bang value yung mga taong bayan na nagsasabi na ayaw namin ng impeachment? Gusto nila? Ang babalyo ng Senado ay yung mga tao lang na nagsasabi na forthwith kuno yung impeachment na yan. Ano, kalimutan na natin yung ibang tao na majority na nagsasabi na ayaw namin ng impeachment dahil panggugulo lang yan sa ating bansa. Lalo tayong nagiging divided. Lalo nasisira ang ating ekonomiya. Mga investors umaalis na dahil ang gulo ng Pilipinas. So yun lang po, Mr. President. I am 101% supporting you. What's your stand, Mr. President? Thank you, Mr. President.
Noted and entered into the records. Senator Ontiveros, our Deputy Minority Floor Leader, is recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. I respond a comment on the second point of the good gentleman from Taguigan Pateros, because there's nothing funny or illogical in and between the motion of the minority leader and the seconding of this representation. The motion of the minority leader is to convene at this very moment. That is what is to be subjected to a vote. Now, instead of on Wednesday. To convene at all is not to be voted upon. Sa usaping yan, sundin lang natin ang konstitusyon. Salamat, Mr. President.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
With the indulgence of Senator Pimentel, Chair recognizes Senator Cayetano, thereafter Senator Pimentel, thereafter Senator Padilla. Senator Cayetano, you may proceed.
Mr. President, I don't want to further the division or the debate. And I wasn't making fun of it. Ang sinasabi ko po, the reality is may tama't mali, may moral, immoral, may legal at illegal. Hopefully, dun tayo parati sa tama. Hopefully, ang legal, yun din ang moral. Ang problema in a collegial body, Senate, House, Commission on Appointments, we move as one based sa pagboboto. So it's just showing the irony that if the minority leader was moving that we've convened now, and the deputy minority leader was saying, you don't need a vote. But if you can vote whether it's now or Wednesday, then I can also argue, then I can also move na sa kana. If you can vote whether today or Wednesday, then you can also vote na next Monday or next Thursday. So that is the paradox we are in today. So whatever decision we make, sana may wisdom. Sana matupad ang konstitusyon, dapat matupad ang konstitusyon, dapat ang kalooban ng ating mga kababayan. But the reality is po, we will be acting as a body and the vote will matter. So yun lang po, and I don't have a debate. I respect what the majority and deputy minority leader has stated. You know, as I said, some of what they say I agree with, but we have to find it in our hearts that even if we disagree, we support the chamber.
Senator
President.
Pimentel, thereafter
Yes.
Senator Padilla. Senator Pimentel, you may proceed.
Just to respond to some of the points raised by Senator Joel Villanueva. Yan, mahirap kung nasisingitan, Mr. President. Nalilimutan natin yung topic. Mr. President, siguro i-inform ko lang yung body, no, na yung referral of an impeachment of the articles of impeachment to the Committee on Rules is not found in the rules of the Senate as a legislative body, and it's not found in the rules of the Senate as the impeachment court. So you cite past practice. Okay. But then,
It's the reading.
I don't think the Senate President will dispute my projection or my anticipation that he intended actually to introduce something new for this particular impeachment case. He will refer it, the plan of the Senate President is to refer the red, after the reading, no, the red articles of impeachment directly to the impeachment court. So ibig sabihin nun, talagang pwede tayong mag-introduce ng innovation because the past practice is not supported by the letters of our two sets of rules, Mr. President. So ang aking point is, we can actually, so the motion, actually, do not fear this motion because this motion will only take up little of our time. Ang gusto kong mangyari, hindi tuloy-tuloy ang ating, if we need to do some preliminary matters before the trial action, ang trial action meaning to say may witness, a witness stand, mayroong direct examination, cross-examination, malayo pa yan, after pa yan pag-filing ng mga answer at saka ng reply. Pero ang aking point is, we can convene the impeachment court so that we can now take the Senate President as presiding officer can take his oath. He can administer our oath. The Senate as the impeachment court is convened or has been convened. We can call the case and then preliminarily talk about the trial calendar of the said case. We will know when we call the case, when we ask the clerk of court to call the case or cases, malalaman natin anong case load natin. And I believe isa lang ating case load. So we have to now come up with the trial calendar for that case. So that will be the effect of the motion, Mr. President, if it is carried. Na advance yung Wednesday setting natin to today as far as the oath-taking requisites are concerned. We devote a little time to come up with a trial calendar. It can be a preliminary trial calendar. And if we are now convened as a court, the other motions I will take up, like now asking the House of Representatives panel of prosecutors to appear before us tomorrow, no longer on Wednesday. Kaya naman gawin. Kung nagawa nga to June 11, hindi rin hindi rin masama na pwede rin magawang June 11 to June 10. So, and that will be brought up before us acting as a court already, Mr. President. Kasi court matter na yung case matter na po yun. So that's the explanation, Mr. President, para baka akala ninyo back down na tayo. Worried si Senator Alan Cayetano sa kanyang e-gov at saka konektadong Pinoy. Suspended lang po yung legislative business natin for maybe 1 to 2 hours, 1 hour and a half. We can go back to our legislative business, Mr. President. But at least we have convened the court. And then sunod lang tayo sa Constitution kasi we should also believe that the Constitution has its own wisdom. Kasi ratified din ng taong bayan po yan. Baka nalimutan natin. Ratified by the people ang ating Constitution. So, yes, thank you.
Before recognizing Senator Villanueva, just for the information of Senator Pimentel, it's not only eGov and Konektadong Pinoy that's ready for ratification. Ready for ratification would also include the virology bill, the expanded Philippine Science High School system, and the 99-year lease bill. Just for the record.
I think, Mr. President, since I still have the floor, I think last session day natin, we suspended, we adjourned at close to midnight. So it doesn't
The
matter.
first
Mr.
session day, we
Yes, also
nearly midnight.
1 hour to 2 hours devoted for the impeachment court, I don't think will harm us, Mr. President.
With the permission of Senator Villanueva, Senator Padilla had earlier, on this
Yes,
point.
because in relation to what the minority leader
With the
stated.
indulgence of Senator
Just
Padilla.
very quick, Mr. President, in relation to the statements made by our minority floor leader.
Senator Villanueva
Thank you,
may
Mr.
proceed.
President, let me put on record also, Mr. President, that I welcome innovation. I welcome what do you call that, Mr. President, when we will no longer refer it to the Committee on Rules and ask perhaps one of the prosecutors to read the articles of impeachment and all the cases thereon. I don't have problems with that, Mr. President. And again, as mentioned earlier, I agree, Mr. President, that we need to convene as soon as possible the impeachment court. But my only question, Mr. President, is if we are not violating our rules because, Mr. President, hindi na ho ba importante na maglabas po kayo ng notice? Hindi ho ba yun ang dahilan kung bakit kayo sumulat na i-schedule nung June 2, tapos ngayon June 11, tapos ngayon magbabago po tayo? Hindi na ho ba kailangan yun? And if it is not, Mr. President, then I will vote for it, Mr. President. I will go with then that's the reason why I'm clarifying all these issues, Mr. President. Kung hindi na kailangan magbigay ng notes, because at the end of the day, we wanted to protect and give importance to due process, Mr. President. That's all I'm saying, Mr. President. We don't want any legal infirmities, Mr. President, along the way. And I know that once we convene as an impeachment court, marami pa po tayong mapag-uusapan ng mga issues. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo. Thank you, Senator Robin Padilla, for yielding the floor to this representation. Thank you.
With the indulgence of Senator Pimentel, Chair would now like to recognize Senator Padilla. You may proceed, sir.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo. Katulad po ng sinabi ni Senator Joel Villanueva, ako po ay hindi po ako abogado, katulad po ni Senator Bato. Pero sa maikling panahon ko po dito, lagi natin binubuksan ang ating rules. At yan po ang unang-unang dinala sa akin nung ako po ay nanalong senador at ako po ay pinuntahan ng sekretariat. Ang una pong binigay sa akin ay yung rules. Napaka-importante ng rules. Yan po ang unang-una talagang isinaksak sa aking ulo. At bukod po doon, tradisyon. May tradisyon dito na kailangan susundin mo, lalo ka na neophyte. Ngayon, ang tanong ko po, sa dalawang nangyaring impeachment, yan po ay kay Pangulong Estrada at kay Chief Justice Corona. Lagi pong dinadala doon sa Committee ng Rules. At yan po ay inaasahan natin sa pagkakataong ito na doon uli makarating. At hindi naman din po ako kumokontra, katulad din po ni Senator Villanueva. Kung meron po tayo mga gustong baguhin, bakit naman po ako kokontra? Dahil yan nga po ang gusto ko, yan ang aking tagline, pagbabago. Pero hindi naman po siguro dapat sa oras na ito. Bakit naman sa oras na ito tayo gagawa ng isang bagay na katulad din po ng sinabi ni Senator Bato de la Rosa, talaga po bang tayo ay gusto nating magkahiwa-hiwalay na talaga? Yung po bang bansa natin talaga gusto na nating gutay-gutayin? Kung meron po tayong gustong baguhin, hindi po dapat siguro yan sa oras na ito, sa panahon na ito, at sa pagkakataon na ito. At katulad din po ng sinabi ko, lagi ko pong sinasabi, paulit-ulit, hindi po ako abogado. Ako po ay madalas akusado. Ako po ay ex-convict. Kaya ako po ay sanay sa korte. Ako po ay laging humaharap sa korte. Lahat po ng mga proceeding ng korte na abutan ko na hanggang po sa pakakakulong. Kailangan po siguro maipaintindi po natin sa lahat na due process. Kailangan dumaan po tayo sa due process. Hindi po tayo pwedeng palundag-lundag. Yun lamang po. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Thank you, Senator Padilla. Senator, what is the pleasure of the Honorable Ejercito?
Yes, Mr. President, just like to second the motion of
You may proceed, sir.
the parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President. Doon po sa punto na ni-raise po ni Senator Villanueva regarding at present the rules of impeachment trials, the Senate has the duty to inform the House of Representatives that we are ready to receive the prosecutors. My inquiry is that in case we act on the motion of the minority, that we proceed immediately. Are we obliged as a body, as a Senate, obliged to issue new sets of notices? Yun lang po ang inquiry ko, Mr. President, because from what I gathered, that it's our duty to inform the House that we are ready to receive the prosecutors, and likewise, probably the Vice President as the accused in this case, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
What is Majority Floor Leader?
Mr. President, before we recognize the distinguished minority leader, perhaps to rephrase again.
No, maybe to respond, to help our colleague, Mr. President.
I don't think we're there yet.
I think
Majority
Senator-
Leader, we're still
Senator
in the
JB,
period of
I think
debate.
soliciting some information, Mr. President.
I yield, Mr. President.
So can we,
The Minority
Yes,
Leader
yes.
may proceed.
so this is my interpretation of Rule 1, Mr. President. Ang pinaka-importante rito is the communication from the Senate to the House that the Senate has taken proper order of the impeachment case that you have filed. Yung mga detalye as to when na-adjust, yung original nga niya na June 2, na-adjust niya to June 11 in a subsequent communication. So my point is, if we convene as a court now, and then as a court we agreed to advance their appearance before us to tomorrow, we just also communicate. But you can also you can also disagree and that maintain the appearance sa Wednesday. But the point is, my motion is to convene as a court now. We take our oaths now. The impeachment court has been convened. This is more in keeping with the spirit of the Constitution na ang aksyon agad. Tapos pala, balikan ko na lang yung issue kanina just for the record kasi yung pagtagalog ko or yung pag-Filipino ko sa provision na English na nasa Constitution, dun yung sa official Filipino version. Ang sinabi dun, sunod agad. So do not dispute na hindi ang katumbas ng forthwith sa Pilipino ay hindi agad. Agad nga yung nasa official version. So, hindi na ako mas marunong sa mga nag-translate po ng Constitution sa Pilipino, sa wikang Pilipino. So I hope this will help our colleague, my explanation will help our colleague when he makes his decision on the pending motion. So with that, Mr. President, I think I've already restated my main motion earlier, Mr. President. So I think it's time that we dispose of the pending matter, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Kasi mix.
Senator
Zubiri.
What is the pleasure of the Honorable Zubiri?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, just to add to the discussions, because the Senate right now is under extreme pressure. All eyes are on us, Your Honors. And each Congress, each Senate has stood up to many of these challenges. On my time, it was the fake People's Initiative that we defeated. Now it's about the impeachment of our Vice President. So we must act in accordance to our rules and traditions and precedent. Many sides have been spoken and explained. The good minority floor leader wishes to have it the soonest possible time, although our precedence, Mr. President, is that we file it to the Committee on Rules. The rules releases the report, and then we take action as jury, as judges on this impeachment court. Ang akin lang po, sana kung ganun po ang proseso na pipiliin natin, no, didesisyonan natin, gawin natin kaagad. Ako po ay taga Mindanao. Pareho po kami ni Senator Bato de la Rosa. Kaya ako hindi naniniwala sa mga survey. Kasi the surveys were read wrong in May, what was that? May 12? May 12, 2025. All surveys were thrown out the window. And the real story was 7 of the 12 senators were not members of the alliance. So, of the national government. So, ibig sabihin, may mensahe po silang ipinapadala sa taong, sa lahat, sa buong Pilipinas, na kaming sa tagasulok ng Mindanao at Visayas ay meron din boses pagdating sa halalan. Pero bilang senador, Mr. President, we must do our constitutional mandate with due respect to all those concerned. Mandato natin sa Constitution yan. At nang hindi natin gagawin yan, ay bugbog tayo sa mata ng publiko. So that's why I agree with the minority floor leader. Whatever the outcome of the trial, you end up voting. For one, I think it is a weak case, but I will reserve my judgment until all the evidence is presented to us, and then we will make the proper vote when the time comes. Pero ang punto dyan ay dadaan tayo, kailangan natin dumaan sa constitutional process that was given by our forefathers when they wrote the 1987 Constitution. Yun lamang po, huwag na po natin patagalin pa. At sa tingin ko, isa pang tanong, ay pwede ba ito tumawid sa 20th Congress? Personally, I've said this to the media, I said, personally, I think hindi siya pwedeng itawid sa 20th Congress. Na kung pwede, pagdebatihan na natin yan ngayon. Kung gusto nyo, hanggang petsa 30 ng Hunyo, araw-gabi, nandito tayo. Pero kasi, meron pa mga constitutional questions with the Supreme Court. So, my point being is, let us follow our constitutional mandate of the Constitution. So I agree with the minority leader, but at the same time, I also agree with our colleagues, Mr. President, that proper procedure should be followed. Para pabilisan na lang natin yan. Para malitisan natin na maayos, mapakinggan natin ang mga ebidensya, kontra at pabor sa ating mahal na Vice Presidente, and then we make the decision at the proper time. But I don't think we can skirt from our constitutional duty. I'm not a lawyer. I'm an agriculturist. But I truly believe when I took my oath to defend and protect the Constitution, we must do so without fear or favor. Yun lamang. At the end of the day, this is a political exercise. Boboto tayo. Di boboto tayo. Tama? Minority Leader? Yun lamang po, Mr. President. I just had to weigh in because the Senate, I love the Senate, Mr. President. I love this institution. And I don't want to see all the brickbats that are being thrown to us saying that we are not doing our duty. We must stand up and rise to this occasion and do our duty. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Subiro. Before we dispose on the matter pending at hand,
Mr. President, I think Senator Grace po is seeking the floor.
is recognized.
Mr. President, it's really, I think, beneficial for all of us to have heard also the opinions and also the research of our colleagues, particularly what was mentioned by both Senator Coco and Senator Risa, na it doesn't really matter what our personal opinions are with regards to the issue. What we are really trying to follow right now is what our mandate is, which is to actually uh, make sure that we exercise this right to hear the cases on both sides. Eh, hindi pa na nga natin naririnig yung mga kaso dahil hindi pa nga napepresenta. Hindi tayo makakagawa ng mga desisyon ukol dyan. At saka kami rin po, hindi na rin kami aabot doon sa punto kung saan magkakaroon ng desisyon. Pero naniniwala ako na ito nga ay ating responsibilidad na dinggin. Ngayon, ang tanong ko lang, kasi sinasabi palagi, no, alam naman natin, abogado si Minority Leader Coco Pimentel, na sinasabi niya, we cannot exactly say that this is the same as the rules of the court, because this is also a political exercise. Meaning, I also agree that it can continue. Kasi nga, di ba yung sa Senate Electoral Tribunal cases na natapos na yung isang Congress, ay patuloy pa rin yung mga kaso dyan. So, pero ang isang tanong ko, ewan ko kung may makakasagot nito. Kasi di ba, ang official date na matatapos talaga yung 19th Congress is June 30. Di ba? So, is there anything in the rules that says that even if we adjourn on the 11th, na pwede pang ipagpatuloy yan kung if the Senate President, for example, makes a motion and then we vote on it? Is this something that can be continued until June 30? Yun lang yung tanong ko. May makakasagot ba niyan?
Maybe the minority leader, being a lawyer, can readily answer the question of Senator Grace po.
The majority leader is also a lawyer, but
Where is the majority
nowhere to
leader?
be found. But Mr. President, yan po yung atin ang sinasagot noon kasi nag-introduce sila ng konsepto na pagka sine die adjournment, no matter can be taken up. Inayos na natin yan. Ang sinabi natin, non-legislative matters can still be taken up.
Kaya meron
So,
mga
up-
hearing.
Yes, up to, no, hindi that, non-legislative na kasi ang hearing, ang committee hearings, legislative pa rin yun. So a non-legislative matter can still be taken up. Pero may hangganan, up to, may hangganan yung kami, for example, na end of term, hanggang 12 noon of June 30 lang kami, 2025, pwede mag-participate sa non-legislative matters because our terms are ending or have ended.
No,
So-
exactly my point. So, you can still participate because it's a political exercise, not necessarily legislative,
Yes.
hanggang June 30.
12 noon, kami po mag-graduate na, opo.
Okay. Eh, paano yung mga hindi mag-graduate?
Well, no problem. Tuloy-tuloy.
Mr. President.
Because at a minute after 12 noon, actually, or a split second after 12 noon, the newly elected senators are joining you. Yung mga hindi gagraduate, they have by force of law joined the remaining 12 senators.
So, pwedeng tuloy-tuloy.
In my opinion, yes, pwedeng tuloy.
Hindi, pero paano ngayon? Kasi 'di ba, mag-a-adjourn tayo sinadya on the 11th, right? So ibig sabihin, wala nang mga hearings din noon kasi legislative matter 'yon.
The committee hearings pursuant to bills and resolutions, yes, wala na po.
About investigations?
Wala na po.
Wala na talaga.
Wala na.
Okay. So,
May I,
that's
Mr.
just a
President?
clarification I wanted to make. Kasi minsan pag nagkakaroon tayo ng break, 'di ba? Break tayo, pero tuloy pa rin yung mga hearings. Kasi basically that's still a whole term eh. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin 'yon. So dito in this case, sinidya tayo, no more legislative matters, but others can be tackled.
Yes, there have been Supreme Court cases ruling that the non-legislative function of the Senate continues even after the sine die adjournment of the Senate as a legislative body.
Okay, I guess this is something that we need to get. Maybe the
Mr.
majority
President,
leader can
just to
clarify.
put some meat to what
Senator
the
Joel.
minority leader is talking about, I am not a lawyer, but as a student of history, the impeachment court is sui generis, a class of its own, and as mentioned by the minority leader a while ago, the Supreme Court decision, Pimentel Jr. versus Joint Congress, Mr. President, napakaklaro po doon that the adjournment does not necessarily affect its non-legislative functions. Doon bang rules? Doon po sa yung Senate rules as provided in Rule L, Section 135, redicts precedents and practices an impeachment into a subsequent Congress. At sinasite po nito yung redicts precedents and practices. It cited as an example yung impeachment against U.S. District Attorney, etc., etc. So just to put that on record, Mr. President, and help in the discussion of my dear colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Joel. Majority Leader, I think you have
Just a
a
point of clarification, there was
different
a rule,
opinion.
there was a rule mentioned pronouncing a carryover. May we know the
Yes.
exact page of the rule?
Maybe Senator Coco Pimentel, may you please answer the query of the Majority Leader, Mr. Minority Leader?
The exact provision, Mr. President. Let me know the exact provision because I've been scrutinizing this for the last several days.
Are you referring to the rules of the Senate?
That would allow
As
it.
mentioned earlier, Mr. President, yung suppletory, Mr. President, yung redicts precedents and practices. Yun po yung binanggit natin.
Yes,
Which is the Senate rules as provided in Rule L, Section 13, Mr. President. Thank you.
Just a quick retort, Mr. President. If with the permission of Senator Grace po, still has the floor. Just a quick retort. Fight ko lang. Matagal ko nang gusto itong i-clarify ito. Meron daw mga Supreme Court decision ko nang gusto itong i-clarify ito. Meron daw mga Supreme Court decisions na sinasabi pwedeng ituloy yung non-legislative functions. Binabanggit yung Pimentel versus the Pimentel case, National Board of Canvassers. Meron pang binabanggit yung I think Francisco. Mr. President, let me just clarify this. For the sake of academic and scholarly good atmosphere for law students and members of the bar as well. Alam niyo po, yung mga binabanggit na non-legislative functions wherein the Supreme Court allowed the continuation way beyond the period of or the lifespan of a Congress refers to a periodically created constitutional ad hoc body. Alam niyo po yung National Board of Canvassers, pagkatapos ng isang eleksyon, presidential elections, nakalagay sa ating saligang batas, created talaga yon to count and canvass and to proclaim. Ganon din po yung mga ilang tribunals, yung mga electoral tribunals, etc., etc. Periodic, predictable, regular, constitutional ad hoc bodies. Kaya po tuloy-tuloy yun kasi ni Kuman po ang Constitution, merong provision pertaining to this periodically created ad hoc bodies. Ang impeachment trial court po is not periodic. Hindi po ito tuwing magkaka-eleksyon, merong impeachment trial court. Hindi po ito regularly created. Ito po ay nakikreate lang pag merong nagsampa ng kaso sang-ayon po doon sa ating saligang batas that would trigger the words initiate coming from the House of Representatives, the word again of the news, yung forthwith. Kakaiba po yung mga non-legislative bodies na periodically created na sinasabing pwedeng tumawid. Kaya po ang sinasabi ko lagi, ang atin pong constitutional clock deadline is June 30. Dahil wala naman pong nagsabi na pwede tayong tumawid beyond June 30 as a Congress. Citations were made concerning the British Parliament, the US Senate. Alam niyo po, yung British Parliament, the last impeachment case was held 1806. Yung po yung sinasite ng US Senate. Pero those bodies are structurally different from the Philippine Senate. Kaya hindi po tayo continuing. Pwedeng sabihin, partially continuing. We all cite cases with reference to continuing body words coming from decisions of the Supreme Court interpreting the 1935 Constitution. Ito yung sinabi ko last week, na yung 1935 Constitution, ang eleksyon ng senador, 888. Meron lagi naiiwan 16. Ganon din po sa British Parliament na yung House of Lords ay naiiwan because lifetime po sila. Yung life peers, yung hereditary peers, yung religious peers, 780 members of the British Parliament, yung House of Lords, forever na po yun, kaya continuing po sila. Yung po yung sinasite ni na Jefferson, yung po yung sinasite ng US Senate, kasi po, ginaya po nila yung US Senate, 100 senators, 67 naiiwan dahil 33 ang na ini-elect every 2 years. So, structurally different po ang Philippine Senate under the 1987 Constitution. Kaya hindi po pwedeng tumawid. Sa mga nakikinig ngayon, nagkaroon ba ho ng dereliction of duty, remiss ba ho ang Senado? Hindi po. Naniniwala po tayo, sinabi kanina na sinimulan po ni Senate President. Ako nga po kanina, for the information of this body, para po magkaroon ng semblance of rules, sinabi ko, we can do this in 19 days. I filed Senate Resolution 1367 para makita kaya natin gumawa ng trial calendar. Sabi nila, napakabilis yung 19 days. Si President Trump na impeach 5 days. Si President Clinton, maigsidin po yun. So ibig ko sabihin, Mr. President, we can still start the impeachment process, but I stick to the constitutional precept that we cannot carry over. We cannot allow a crossover or carry over because it is not part of the Constitution. We can only interpret the word as enshrined in the Constitution. I'm sorry, Senator Grace, I've taken much of your time.
No,
I just
actually-
responded to some queries, statements made a while ago, and just to spread this into the record before we again ask the good minority leader to perhaps rephrase his motion.
No, I think it's very important for us to hear all sides with regards to the matter. And just to clarify, what the gentleman from Cavite is saying, that sige, dinggin natin ito hanggang 30th ng June, pwede. Huwag lang tayo lalagpas doon sapagkat hindi na pwede.
Correct.
Okay, ngayon, ito yung tanong ko, yung sa respondent, meron siyang apparently 10 days para sumagot, di ba? Hindi pa na-file na ba sa Committee on Rules dito?
Not yet.
So, has she been notified already of what she has to face and has the 10 days started? Not yet, right?
Not yet.
Okay, so meaning, if let's say we start on the 11th, which is Wednesday, or even tomorrow, which is the 10th, so hindi pa talaga sila pwedeng humarap hanggang 20th. Kasi 10 days eh. Di ba? So, pwede ba tayo magkaroon ng hearing na yung respondent ay hindi pa ready with her reply? I mean, is there a process within the impeachment that does not require the respondent to be present yet? It's just a presentation of, I don't know, evidence. I mean, this is just a
Yes.
parliamentary query.
Meron po kasi magko-constitute nga as an impeachment court at manunumpa. Manunumpa yung Senate President as the presiding officer of the trial court. Manunumpa rin po lahat tayo.
So hanggang
as
panunumpa
members
lang.
of the...
How about the presentation of evidence? Pwede ba?
Wala pa ho. Wala pa ho. Yung presentation ng articles of impeachment to be done by the panel of prosecutors. Yung susunod-sunod, pag nagkaroon na ng joinder of issues after the submission of the answer, doon na po matitrigger po yung iba. Yung prosecution has the right to reply.
Oo.
Tapos sunod-sunod na po yun.
So ang ibig sabihin, after the swearing in and then reading of the articles of impeachment, may break ng 10 days. Kasi ihintayin pa natin yung sagot eh.
Correct.
Okay, so wala din naman mangyayari. So, what the gentleman is saying na pwede natin to stretch until the end, hindi rin eh. Kasi 10 days na lang din ang matitira from let's say the 10th until the 30th. 10th, 20th,
20 21st to 30th.
21.
I filed
20 days.
Yes.
20 days. So 20 days.
I
Okay.
filed an indicative calendar just to show Mr. President na sa taong bayan na hindi naman natin nakaligtaan yung ating trabaho.
Hindi,
Na
pero tama. Pero the
iniwan
actual,
nating nakatiwangwang.
Tama. But the actual discussions can't begin until after the earliest, the 21st. Diba? Kasi wala pang response. And
Correct,
yun
correct.
lang, yan. Yun lang ang
Correct po
akin.
yun. Pero yung sa yung submission of trial briefs, June 22, etc., until the rendition of a verdict, Mr. President.
Pwede ba yun? Parang budget, yung wala nang matutulong para lang tapusin yun?
Siguro po, kung with the cooperation and physical, kung papayag po
Oo,
kayo,
kung-
kung papayag din po ang
No,
prosecutors.
but kasi I'm also of the opinion, okay? Well, first of all, we cannot make judgments right now.
Yeah.
And I feel that it is the right of the respondent to be able to defend herself.
Correct.
And in fact, we can never say whether guilty or not kasi hindi pa nga natin alam eh.
Correct.
And the respondent herself is saying na give her a chance also to be able to confront. I mean, she's confident about it. But I agree with the minority leader that kung yung Senate Electoral Tribunal, which is actually, yeah, of national interest, but maybe not as much as this one, na itatawid natin for other Congresses, and even in the US, natatawid din yung impeachment to the next Congress. I know what you're saying, there's no term limit in the US, pero I think, again, may mga nakausap akong members of who served before in the Supreme Court. This is a political exercise. It's not, I guess it's not bound by very strict rules of court. So yun lang. But we appreciate what the minority leader is also raising because oo nga naman, I mean, these are two schools of thought, but we are all in agreement here that we cannot make judgments at this point, but we have to definitely hear it. Thank you.
We totally agree. Mr. President, the good Deputy Minority Leader is seeking the floor. I move that she be recognized.
With the permission of Senator Ontiveros, Senators Estrada and Gatchalian also raised their hand to be recognized, and they haven't been heard. Will the lady kindly
Yes.
yield to them?
I apologize, Mr. President. Senator Gatchalian raised his hand first. I move
Yeah.
that he be recognized with the permission of Senator Ontiveros.
Senator Gatchalian is recognized. What is your pleasure, sir?
Actually, Mr. President, I would be more than happy to yield to our good Deputy Minority Leader, Mr. President. Go ahead.
That being the case, the Honorable Ontiveros is recognized. You may proceed, ma'am.
Salamat, Mr. President, at salamat sa good gentleman from Valenzuela. Paalala ko lang po yung motion ng minority leader ay to convene at this very moment. At gusto kong ibalik sana yung atensyon ng lahat doon. Pero dun sa sinabi na rin naman ni majority leader, binanggit nila yung ilang mga kaso na dinesisyon na ng Korte Suprema, and these are Chavez versus Judicial and Bar Council at saka Pimentel Jr. versus Joint Committee of Congress, kung saan sinabi lang naman ng Korte Suprema dun sa una that impeachment is a non-legislative function of the Senate. At dun sa pangalawa, that non-legislative functions of the Senate are not affected by the shift between Congresses. Hindi po nag-distinguish ang Korte Suprema sa sinasabing periodic at saka non-periodic functions. Basta sinabi niya non-periodic functions tulad ng impeachment, na ito non-legislative functions ng Senado at ang mga ito ay hindi apektado sa shift between Congresses. Pero yun na nga po, yan ay isang desisyon na pwede nating kunin at a later point in the impeachment trial. Ang unang gusto lamang i-activate ng motion ng minority leader ay sa pamamagitan nga ng motion niya to convene at this very moment. And bago ko tapusin itong intervention, Mr. President, at ibalik nga sa motion ng minority leader, quick comment lang dun sa ni-raise ng good gentleman from Davao dahil nakabalik na rin sila sa floor tungkol po sa kagustuhan ng Pilipino, no, at iba pa dito sa usapin ng impeachment trial. Gaya ng sinabi ng minority leader kanina, hindi pa naman tayo nag-uusap ng conviction ba o acquittal. Pinag-uusapan pa lang natin yung pag-convene ng impeachment court. Kaya ano yung masamang maidudulot ng panunumpa natin. At ito, kailangan nating desisyonan. Yes, alang-alang sa taong bayan, lahat po tayo ay mayroong hindi lang karapatan pero responsibilidad, pag-isipan at pag-usapan ang taong bayan. So lastly, again, Mr. President, ibalik ko lang dun sa motion ng minority leader, which is simply and importantly to convene at this very moment. Salamat, Mr. President.
Senator Gatchalian is recognized thereafter, Senator Estrada.
Maraming salamat. Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's a brief manifestation, Mr. President. Dapat ho maintindihan ng ating mga kasamahan at ng ating mga kababayan na ang pinag-uusapan ho natin ngayon ay hindi pa ho yung merits nung kaso. Hindi pa ho natin pinag-uusapan yung kaso mismo ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Ang pinag-uusapan lang ho natin ngayon yung ating constitutional duty under Article 11, Section 3, Number 4, na kung saan pag na-transmit na ho sa atin ang Articles of Impeachment ng House of Representatives, Senado na po ang mag-hold ng trial. Ito po ang sinumpaang responsibilidad ho natin sa ilalim ng saligang batas. At ito rin po ang sinumpaan ho nating duty or solemn duty nung tayo po ay naging senador. Natatandaan ko nung 3 years ago, nanumpa ho tayo to support and defend the Constitution. Kaya mga kasama, dapat ho natin maintindihan na ito rin po ay parte ng proseso ho natin pagdating ho sa accountability. At napakahalaga po ang proseso. Para sa akin, ang proseso ay isang bagay na dapat ho natin sundin dahil ito po ang magpapatibay po ng ating sistema ng demokrasya. Kung titignan ho natin, hindi malayong lugar, dito po sa Asia, sa South Korea, kung nagkaroon rin ho sila ng impeachment process ho doon. Yung kanilang Pangulo ay na-impeach. At nung yun po ay nangyari, katulad rin po sa atin, marami rin po lumabas sa kalsada, marami rin po nagpapahiwatig ng kanilang saloobin, at mukhang magulo pag nanonood ho tayo ng telebisyon. Pero kung tatanungin ho natin yung mga investors, tatanungin din ho natin mga kaibigan ho nating South Korean, kampante ho sila na hindi ho mangyayaring isang napakalalang gulo sa kanilang lugar dahil alam nila ang proseso ay nasusunod. Yung proseso ng impeachment sa kanilang bansa ay nasusunod. At ganun nga ho ang nangyari. No, nagkaroon ho ng pagdinig, na-impeach yung kanilang Pangulo, nagkaroon ho ng isang pagboto ng bagong presidente at ngayon balik na ho sila sa normal. Kaya mga kasama, ang aking punto ho dito ay ang proseso ay napakahalaga para po maging matibay po ang sistema ng demokrasya ho natin at higit sa lahat magkaroon ng malinaw na pananagutan ang mga personalidad na binigyan ho natin ng tiwala para po manilbihan sa ating bansa. Hindi lang po ang impeachment ay hindi lang po limitado sa presidente at vice president. Kasama ho dito members of the Supreme Court, members of the Constitutional Commission, ang ombudsman ay kasama ho dito. Kaya kung ano po ang ginagawa ho natin ngayon, ay ganun rin pong pananagutan na gagawin ho natin sa ibang personalidad kung sila po ay magkakasala. Kaya mga kasama, muli, ito po ay hindi na po nating desisyon o hindi na po nating choice. Ito po ay ang ating constitutional duty at ito po ay ang ating sinumpaan na responsibilidad nung tayo po ay naging senador. At meron po rin akong isang katanungan sa ating minority leader, no, ang movant nitong motion ho natin. May mga narinig rin po ako sa television kanina na ito pong articles of impeachment ay tila merong constitutional infirmity. At gusto ko siyang tanungin dahil hindi lang ho dahil siya po ay movant, alam ko nag-top rin ho siya sa bar once upon a time. Kaya gusto ko malaman gusto ko marinig ang kanyang opinion na meron ba hong kapangyarihan ang Senado para po desisyonan kung ang articles of impeachment ay dapat po dinggin o hindi dinggin dahil po sa mga komplikasyon or constitutional infirmities na opinion po ng ibang mga abogado.
Senator Pimentel may respond.
Yes. Since I also want to respond, Mr. President. Well, I'm proceeding from my analogy of the Senate as a court, as the impeachment court. So meaning to say, we will allow the respondent or the impeached officer to put all of his or her objections against the case against her in her answer to the articles of impeachment. Lagay niya lahat doon. So therefore, if that is now my answer to